Welcome back to Dirty20, everyone. Today we celebrate 100 episodes by getting meta and picking my top Dirty20s on Dirty20. Let's get on with the show. Thanks for joining us, lovely people. Today we reach a milestone, 100 episodes. And before anything else, I wanted to thank you for joining us and watching these videos along with us. It really motivates us to keep doing them, so thank you. And here's to 100 more. So, I thought we could take a look back on some of my favorite episodes that we've done in our first 100. There have been so many that I've enjoyed making, not least of all our one-shots and also sharing Star Wars 5e with you guys. Those are definite highlights. But I thought we would start with episode number 4, campaigns. Okay, apart from my vampire-like complexion and the clear issues that I had with headspace, I stand by this video. We talk about the struggles of scheduling a campaign, prepping, cooperative storytelling, DM burnout, and we also discuss Session 0, without doubt one of the most important elements of not being disappointed by your campaign. Have we made technically better videos? Sure, but all this stuff that we discussed in that video, well, I kind of wish that I had known that stuff before I started DMing. So I think it's a really useful one. Next up, my very first collaboration on the channel was in episode 18, where I interviewed Squiggle Mike. Mike is such a lovely guy and a phenomenal commission painter, but above all else, he's just an incredible human being. He has an incredible story and the journey that he's been on, which has led him to help others that struggle with mental well-being by, for example, running workshops on miniature painting for mental health. Well, it all really resonated with me. It also made me realize how important my miniature painting is to my mental health. We should really do a follow-up with him. He's awesome. Next up is our call to arms from producer Jay. Episode 15, Let the Children Play. Now, in this particular episode, we try to let parents know how they can help their kids get into D&D. It was also very much spurred on by the movie Onward from Pixar, a real love letter to role-playing games. But we also talk about a video from the awesome Mayim Bialik, where she talks about how playing D&D with the kids has brought them closer. Now, the things that D&D can teach kids are plentiful. And I really encourage you to share this video with any of your friends who might have kids. Okay, next up is a little bit of a cheat because I'm actually picking a series of videos. But it all began in episode 72 in Homebrewing with Erik Johansson. In this series, we get to talk with our good friend and collaborator, Erik. If you've seen any of our one-shots, he's always a player for those and always comes up with phenomenally fun characters, and he's someone who's DM'd for me as a player on many an occasion, always tinkering with the rules to try to make the game we love a little bit better. In this first episode, we get to learn a little bit about Erik's background in gaming and his fascination with the mechanics of the games he plays, as well as our journey together into tabletop RPGs. This is something I definitely want to get back to. Erik has some really interesting ideas about the magic system, initiative, and a really fun method of character creation. And finally, once again, I am cheating, but it is our 100th episode, so I'm allowed to. Once again, I'm choosing a series, and it's our latest series on firsts, which all began with episode 91, Your First Session. Following on with the idea that there's things that I wish I'd known before I started DMing. Going through your first session, or your first combat encounter, or creating your first villain, all felt like really good topics to discuss. Now, maybe I'm being a little vain, but, rewatching a lot of these videos, I'm really proud of how I've developed as a communicator on camera. And I feel that my time as a teacher has given me a pretty good grasp of how to convey a complex idea in a concise and comprehensive manner. Please let me know any suggestions you might have down in the comments below. My philosophy is always keep learning, and I know I can keep improving. But with this series on your firsts, I think there's a lot of longevity there. As we get new players into the game, a lot of them are going to turn to YouTube and coming across videos that kind of walk you through some of these tougher moments that you might feel a little bit overwhelmed by when you start running a game in D&D. I think they're pretty good. And I like to think that, a lot of the advice that I give in the series could very much be applied to any RPG system. So there we have it, guys. Links to all the videos I mentioned in this meta episode in the description down below. Before we go to our character building section, please make sure that you have subscribed if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon in order to not miss a video that we upload. Okay then, guys, so today for our character building section, I'm going back to one of the very first characters that I created for D&D 5e. His name is Abaddon, and when I first started out in 5e, I was definitely choosing some interesting ancestries to play. I remember the very first time I created a character, it was a Tabaxi, and this was when I read about the Aasimar ancestry, which are essentially part angel. And I've always had a big fascination with the whole kind of Paradise Lost, fall of Lucifer, the war among the angels and stuff. And so I used that as inspiration for this character. And I wrote quite an extensive history. And since it's our 100th episode, I thought I would read it out and get it out there because I'm actually quite proud of this one. But this is the background I wrote about Abaddon. On the day Abaddon was born, his mother died in childbirth. A week later, his father was captured and sacrificed by a crazed cult to the god Merkel. However, these were not the most harrowing moments in this child's life. He would be taken in by the friars at the monastery dedicated to the goddess Chantia. This would be the happiest time of his life. He learned about farming and the respect that all creatures must show to life, and the circular nature of things. The scythe was his instrument of labor, which he undertook with joy and determination. At the age of 11, his teacher, Friar Cass, found the young Abaddon convulsing whilst working on the temple farm. As he cradled the young boy, a radiant energy emanated from the boy's eyes, and a pair of ghostly wings appeared at his back. Friar Cass knew then that this boy was one of the fabled Aasimar, a child of the divine. These are rare creatures imbued with the blood of angels, and most, if not all, will go on to become members of the army of the divine. He also knew that Abaddon would have to join his brothers and sisters at the Temple of Torm. Together, Cass and Abaddon traveled the perilous road to the Temple of Torm, and during the long journey, sleeping under the stars, Abaddon learned the most important lesson of his life from Friar Cass. Cass had been a criminal in his youth. He took life and property without regard. To this day I fight the darkness I know is within me, and within all living creatures, without rest. And this, young Abaddon, is the way to show the gods our devotion. By fighting our darkness every day, you will become a great warrior, but whether we win or lose, we never give up the fight, on the battlefield and in our hearts. Abaddon would take this lesson to his heart in the darkest hours. After being left at the temple, Abaddon struggled to adapt. The other acolytes had many years of experience over Abaddon, as most Aasimar are identified at birth and begin their path to martial and divine perfection as soon as they can stand up straight. This, paired with his southern, rural upbringing amongst farmers and peasants, as well as his thick accent, made him a target for those who would elevate themselves to the detriment of the weak. One boy, however, would come to his rescue and become the greatest confidant and friend Abaddon had ever had. His name was Azrael. Azrael was confident and brash, one of a long line of Azamir among whose ancestors was Babylon, the founder of the Seraphim Guard. The best of the best, the most devout, the most willing to sacrifice for the people of the plains. As time went by, Abaddon grew in strength of body and spirit. He and Azrael were the greatest young acolytes the temple had seen in centuries. But the good times were not to last. The oracle at Savar's Delphi had not made a prophecy for 3 generations. The prior of the temple had worked hard to reach this most comfortable position, and had no idea what to do when the flame erupted and the winged oracle Metatron delivered a prophecy that would change everything for Abaddon. The swarming army of locusts, a king over them. Coming storm, the destroyer, the angel of the pit, name in the celestial tongue. But just as quickly and unexpectedly, the voice of the gods was gone. The ringing silence echoed its deafening absence of sound that was broken by a fork of lightning striking the marble at the center of the courtyard. The prior slowly emerged from his hiding place under the font of eternity, a solid choice as cover, as the rain began to fall heavily. The pitter-patter of the rain falling on the hissing molten marble did not deter the strangely courageous prior from stepping forward and waving away the smoke to reveal scrawled in black scorch marks across the previously pristine marble floor was the name Abaddon. The very next morning, the council called Abaddon into the chamber. Here he was told of the prophecy. The great elder looked on as the council argued long into the night what should be done. He must be excommunicated, argued one member. The prophecy was not delivered to completion by Metatron. Someone may have tampered with it. The boy has done nothing wrong, chimed in another. Can we risk it? The long-lived old man presiding over everything looked into the eyes of Abaddon with concern and asked him, "What would you do if you were in our position, young warrior?" "Me, great elder?" responded Abaddon. I'm not sure I'm the one who should decide." "Interesting," exclaimed the elder. "I would have thought you would be the ideal person to decide. After all, it is a prophecy about you," he chuckled. As he stepped down at a glacial speed from his high chair and walked past Abaddon, he said, "Allow me to lean on your arm as we walk." They left the councillors stunned and perplexed, but they soon returned to their argument. Abaddon was led to the balcony overlooking the training fields. He looked to the ground, unsure he should say anything, but his musing was interrupted by the elder. "Speak already," he said in a paternal manner. "Elder, what does it mean?" "It means that you may be the oncoming storm, the destroyer, the one to lead the army of darkness in the final battle." He paused for a second. "Or it might mean something entirely different. Prophecies are tricky things." Abaddon looked on with a sense of despair and remembered the words from his childhood journey to the temple. "Fighting our darkness every day. Whether we win or lose, we never give up the fight. On the battlefield and in our hearts," which he said out loud. The elder looked at him and smiled. "As I suspected, you are wiser than most all the grey-haired old farts in that council room. I think you will be fine," he said, as he put a hand on his shoulder. News spread fast through the temple. Many of the people he had won over in his youth now shunned him once again, but as always, Azrael was there for him. One night, Azrael came to him. "Run with me. Let us break these shackles that bind us to this archaic temple of dogma. We can do so much more than these endless rules will allow." Abaddon looked at Azrael in disbelief and asked, "You want to rule?" "No, I want you to rule." His eyes burnt with intensity. The gods themselves want it to be so. This plane has lived its last. They want it to begin again, for balance to be established, for the suffering to end. There is too much evil in this world. It's time for things to change, and they want you to lead us there. Abaddon turned to look at the dark sky and the blanket of stars that shone down from above. As we cannot. I won't deny it. It tempts me, but I've got to believe we can still change things. A different way. I'm sorry, brother. Azrael looked at Abaddon for a second with anger, but it soon disappeared. You are right, brother. Abaddon felt relief wash over him. Azrael walked to the archway, and just before he left, he turned to Abaddon and said, "You're not ready, but I will make you ready." And with that, he left. Abaddon hasn't seen him since that night. Okay then, so with that extensive background, which I think we're all a little bit guilty of with certain characters that we fall in love with, let's build Abaddon, who is going to be, as I mentioned before, an Azamir, as kind of I wrote into the story. Again, I love that whole fallen angel kind of, War of the Angels kind of thing. And I'm going to go with Protector Azamir. We'll see what that means in just a second. And as I said, we're going to go Paladin. And I'm going to stick with Acolyte. I thought about possibly doing Soldier. But, after the whole prophecy, I'm not sure that the people of his kind of military organization, the Divine Army, would, be necessarily that welcoming. So I'm going Acolyte. Now, I'm going 16 Strength. I'm going 15 Charisma. Excuse me. See, I did this last time as well. Okay, so I'm going 15 Constitution. I'm going 12 Charisma. 11 Wisdom. 10 Intelligence. And Dexterity 8. I am dumping Dexterity. And you're going to see why. Simply because a Paladin really is a fantastic tank. Someone who can go into combat, not be afraid of getting hit because their armor class is going to be pretty good. So, I'm going to pick Athletics. And I'm going to pick Intimidation. Okay. Now, for weapons, I'm going to go Warhammer. 1d8 Bludgeoning. Versatile 1d10. And for the secondary weapon, I'm going to go Longsword. Now, this character was very much inspired by a miniature that my brother bought me, which was from Warhammer 40,000, their range. And we stuck some wings on him. And he looks like a paladin, right? He's wearing this kind of incredible armor. But let's have a look at what Abaddon would look like. Now, initiative -1. It's not great. I'm not going to lie. But in terms of armor, immediately, I'm going to give him some chainmail. Now, I think I would try and get to plate mail as soon as I could. But that's going to take you to an armor class of 16. I would also get him a shield as soon as I could, which would give him +2 to his armor class, bringing him up to 18. Now, the thing to remember is that with the heavy armors, chainmail, you are slowed if your strength is not 13 or higher. Luckily, our strength is fine there. But you also have disadvantage on stealth. this is not great. It has a definite impact on your character and the way you can really do things. But it's also it's fun to not be good at certain things. In terms of abilities and stuff like that, you know, paladins aren't bards, they're not rangers, so you're good at a few things. What you're really good at is fighting. You know, +5 to hit at level 1. You're doing at least 1d8 +3 damage. Later on, you're also going to be able to use smites, where paladins can give up a spell slot in order to deal more damage. But let's have a look. The Aasimar has dark vision. You also have resistance against radiant and necrotic damage. You can heal a creature your level hit points with a touch as an action once per day. Okay, 1 hit point. Again, though, that if that can bring someone back, then that's very, very useful. You can cast the light cantrip. Now, at 3rd level, this is where things get interesting. At 3rd level, you can gain a 30-foot fly speed and deal your level in radiant damage to one spell or attack target each turn for 1 minute as an action. So that's kind of going into angel mode, where your wings come out. And it's one of the really cool things about being an Aasimar. This is the protector version. For the fallen, you get like skeleton wings, and that's what I was trying to do in my background, was to essentially create a nemesis for the DM to be able to throw at me at any point, in Azrael, who would have been a fallen Aasimar, and I like the contrast of that. Your acolyte, you receive aid from those who share your faith. Paladin features: as an action, you can detect the location of any celestial, fiend, or undead, and any consecrated or desecrated place or object within 60 feet, once plus charisma modifier times per day. Cool, very thematic. I love the idea of this, you know, angel that might be prophesized to be the bringer of the end of days, but he's kind of, you know, trying to just deal with it, which I really like. And gain a reservoir of healing power, 5 hit points, and as an action, you can heal a creature you touch by draining that power. You can also cure 1 poison or disease from the creature by sacrificing 5 hit points from the reservoir. Again, very handy to have healing in the party. You have all the armor proficiencies, including shields, martial weapons and simple weapons, some languages, including Celestial. But overall, I think this was a kind of character that I really wanted to play. They were so flavoursome, and I never got the chance. So on this 100th episode, I present to you Abaddon, the Coming Storm. Thank you so much for joining us for our 100th episode, everyone. Do you have a particular episode that you enjoyed of Dirty 20? Are there any topics that we haven't covered yet that you would like to see a video on? Let us know in the comments down below. Take care, and as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am EnanoLVP, and our producer is Jazzy J Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.